Hi everyone, this is Darren. Just doing a quick recap video for WWPF, which is our Draft Day Sports Pro Football 2024 League. It will move to 2025 probably in the next week because we're in the playoffs. Uh, we've progressed past the wild card in the division series. We're now in the conference series. I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But if you're interested, there's still some really good teams open. Detroit comes to mind. Minnesota is another. Atlanta's now open. New York, Seattle. Double check that. Baltimore is open. You have the Indianapolis Colts who open. You have the Buffalo Bills, and then of course those are the biggest teams that are open. There were a couple others that are open. I'll talk about those later. But when I left you, we were in the second to last week of the year. We have moved past that. As you can see, the number one seed was nabbed by San Francisco. Carolina got the second seed. And then Minnesota and New York grabbed the 3 and 4 seed with LA having the top wild card and Seattle getting in as well over Atlanta. On the AFC side, Pittsburgh grabbed the number one seed. Oakland was the 2 seed. That really wasn't in doubt from the last video. But as you can see, Tennessee grabbed the 3, New England grabbed the 4, Baltimore grabbed the 5, and then Denver got in with the 6. So if we go and we look real quick um, at the wild card, you see that Minnesota down Seattle. This was a battle of two CPU opponents. Kind of a shocker that the Giants, who on CPU, edged out the Rams, which is Barry. Barry had a really good season. It's a shame it went out that way. And as you can see, Goldman had a really good game. And then Tennessee blew past Denver, so this was Bama versus Prince, and Bama definitely grabbed that and won that one uh, behind a pretty strong rushing game. And then Shark edged out Baltimore 42-35, largely behind Shank. So really good win for Shark, which set up the matchups that we see this week, which is the CPU going against Stuart, Minnesota CPU going against Invisible, Shark versus my Steelers, and then Bama versus Peter's Oakland Raiders. So what we have is San Francisco easily got by New York. See, New York had a pretty good game from Huang, but they were no match for Ford, who just pretty much ran them over. Carolina got past Minnesota in a pretty convincing way, just kept scoring throughout the game. Campbell had a really good game with 290 yards, but you also see Willis had a big game too. So great job for Invisible. He just really knocked Minnesota out. Kind of the AFC was two upsets. New England edged out Pittsburgh. New England led most of this game. Pittsburgh made it close in the end. Pierce didn't have a bad game, but he didn't have a great game. Um, Part of that had to do with I made some probably boneheaded mistakes where I wanted to try to run in a different way than I should have to try to throw Shark off. And Shark did a good job of game planning and knocked off the Steelers. So that's a big win for New England, who will progress. I think this may be Sharks' first or second time in the conference championship. So New England's been there before with a different coach because they've won a couple championships. But then Tennessee versus Oakland. This is Bama versus Peter. Another upset. This one not as close. Well, Bama just completely got Peter's number and ran past him. Johnson didn't have quite the good game he normally has. If you look at this one, you can see that Bama pretty much led most of the game. Peter made it closer in the end, but Hall had a really good game, and then he just ran Woodward and stalked past him. Um, so for the first time in a long time, one of your AFC champion won't be Pittsburgh and won't be Oakland, who have been pretty much the mainstays in that area. So now what we're left with is Carolina versus San Francisco. So this is Invisible versus Stuart. Carolina's been here a few times. San Francisco hasn't been here in a while. So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. I think this one is really too close to call. I wouldn't give it 5 points. I think this game's going to be determined by a field goal. Um, New England versus Tennessee. Shark is having quite a run, so is Bama. So this one again, too close to call. But if I had to pick it, I think Tennessee wins this one. Bama's just done a really good job with Tennessee this year, and it's no slight against Shark. Shark has had a really good season after a pretty miserable regular season. But he made it into the playoffs and he's making the most of it. But whatever happens, uh, both of these coaches have never made it to the title game. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Could be wrong, and I'll have to double check that just to make sure. But I think the last time New England was in the title game was when Oppenheimer was here, or Noah, sorry. Just double check. Yeah, they haven't been there in a while. It was 2022, and I think that was before Shark, if I remember correctly. I don't think Tennessee has ever been this far in, if I remember correctly. So we'll just look at that real quick. Um, Actually, Tennessee has. I keep forgetting that Tennessee had one of the better coaches in charge of them for a while. But definitely really good run from Bama, who just really has distinguished himself this season. If we look at San Francisco, you can see that it's been a while since they have made it to the thing. Stuart has actually been to the finals before twice, losing. I think probably both times are probably Peter. Um, but that's a really good run for him. He was a few seasons without making the playoffs. Now he's on the verge of actually being in the final, the championship game. And then, of course, you have Invisible, who is no stranger to the championship game since taking over Carolina. As you can see, this is a pretty good resume from him. He was conference champion, losing to Pittsburgh. Then he won it. Then he lost to Oakland. Didn't go back. And then, of course, last season he lost to Pittsburgh again. But they did beat Pittsburgh in this one. So he traditionally has been there. Again, regular season was a little bit of a mess for him too, but overall, he's had a really solid record. If I had to pick one team that I think will win it, it would be him. But he's got a tall order with dealing with San Francisco. Stewart has had a really good season with them this season. And then on the flip side, Shark and Bama, whoever wins it would be deserving of being there. So when we look at the league leaders or who more appropriately is probably going to be MVP, Denham, yeah, had a great season, but Johnson's had a good season too. Compton, I think, is going to be the universal pick for Rookie of the Year. Just because he had a great season. You can see the 75 touchdowns is the big reason why. He had a pretty good pass rating as well, um, even though he doesn't qualify. And then Ford had a really great season, came on in the end, could be the MVP. Lackey didn't have a great season, mostly just some up and down dealing with age. Boudreaux had a really good season. And then the other person who will be up for it, of course, will be Adrian Torres, who broke the single season record for receiving yards. Um, and then, of course, you have the Oakland receivers who had a good year. From a defensive player of the year, it's probably going to be Sousa. I don't think anyone really had a better year than he did. Cunningham had a pretty good year, but Sousa just dominated most cases. You could make a case for Devin Scott too, but I think it'll be Sousa. So that's it. If you're interested in joining, we have some openings. We will flip to 2025 in about a week. So if you want to join, just let me know the team. We're on Discord. It's in the chat. Hope you have a great New Year's Eve and talk to you later.